Hello. If you're watching there are currently bids underway being reviewed for who, if anyone, will become the next owner of Warner Brothers. Failing that, the company will also likely split from Discovery by the coming year at minimum. So, as I will be using this as a way to pull a series that I placed on hiatus and protest the company's his business, his practices, even if as I enjoy one of the works I put out. Here is a video on why HBO Max and Relax will finally be emerging from hiatus. So let's get started. When the he company he became one of Discovery in summer 2022, who was not without a series of controversies in terms of management and in terms of how attempting to meld two very different company catalogs and business models into one. And since, even though we will get into these details more, or it certainly did not have the intended effect that it was going for. Or I mean, I personally decided to let things sit a bit longer, especially in regards to certain projects that were coming down the line, especially in regards to the remaining DCEU films they had before they rebooted them into the DCU. Who and if all went well, how they would be they have not only acclaimed successful films in the line, but also a way to help end off that past decade of stories. As you may recall, all did not go well. And at the worst of it, the stock price cost less than typically got to buy my lunch at some points. And that's when I had out. So, and with that pretext established, I think the new continuity would be a good place to start, or and this final 5 points addressing of the company, as it may is definitely whatever happens. The one constant is that it's not going to be existing in its current form for much longer. Even though there was a lot of concern about the new continuity and its lead film in particular, or many of whom doubted that the film could succeed given the device reception of previous DC outings and the new direction they're undertaking, and, and especially with the movie itself and how it would tie into a slew of television spin-offs. Instead, had this new vision with both the theatrical Superman reboot and the animated adult spin-off Creature Commandos. Those have kicked off swimming this year, with Superman grossing over $600 million worldwide by the end of this run, and also proving quite popular on home media as well. Oh, I'm especially intrigued by the whole gods and monsters approach that's going to be incorporating not just big names like Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, but also lesser known characters such as the Authority, the Creature Commandos, those the Lanterns event series, which is going to be like a DC series of True Detective. Even if someone's not seen that show, I'm intrigued by the idea. Yeah, and and also a reboot of Swamp Thing, and with James Mangold at the helm. That being said, other areas have not panned out so well. I mean, their video game division and is has been all over the place lately. He, and while the reboot of Mortal Kombat sold relatively well, they recently wrapped up their DLC content, and I definitely intend to pick up the Ultimate version. And since I am going to be my goal of getting a PS5 by the end of this year, here, that being the case, is their games as service ventures have not panned out with just the idea of adding these elements to a proposed Hogwarts Legacy sequel being met with fierce resistance, especially with the lackluster reception sales to Quidditch Champions not helping matters either. I mean, we'll get into more about that IP in a bit, but definitely not even the biggest names could pump up a business model that a lot of people are getting fatigued by, with Multiverse going darker this year and Rack City going back to single player titles after concluded winning all their contractually obligated expansions for Task Force X goes to Pizza Hut, better known as Suicide Squad Kill Justice League. Some people compared it to Episode 9's ending. I would actually go a bit further and say it was more like Monster of Go-Go's ending, and how was that kind of cop outs. I would mean, I'll get into more another time. And even though they claimed they're going to keep pushing forward with this concept, I'm a big believer of the idea of action speaking louder than words. Herds, since have instead inked new deals with Epic, with more like characters appearing in Fortnite, ranging from Superman to Finn and Jake from Adventure Time. I'm vibing to virtual concerts, building elaborate structures, and having some chicken dinners as they reach the top of their royale. Oh, as well as Mojang with Minecraft, so all favorite characters can play out scenarios while it's looking like voxels. And even though I was skeptical about some other ventures, I think I will also use the opportunity to show how the breakup rumors initially started. Normally, I don't put much stock in rumors of any kind because they're just that to me, rumors. They might be true, and they might not, but I also tend to rank them in terms of plausibility of them potentially being proven true, and given and how things were throughout 2023 and 2024 and headed into 2025, it certainly wasn't anything too out of the realm possibility as it's happened before. I'm old enough to remember the whole AOL Time Warner partnership, and we'll come back to that near the end of this video as well. But uh, it definitely was enough to spook a lot of investors. There's some of whom pulled out. Others, however, took advantage of the dropped prices to start actually putting a bit more in. And I'm still learning a lot about the markets, but let's just say, hey, when they say buy the dip, they're not talking about queso at all. Count on that. And another sign about how it's walking back to what works, and after trying a bunch of things that don't, let's 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 go on to our next talking point here. So, as part of their many attempts to try and draw the audience had the opposite effect, the most infamous was arguably is shortening HBO Max to just Max. Max, I mean, apart from it not being that different, apart from the UI looking colored slightly differently, hey, I sometimes do that for shorts, or the intent was once again to try and broaden their audience, and expand it, but the result was the exact opposite happened. Even the international markets are trying to use as part of the change did not respond in kind. And it presents a similar issue to the entire parent company itself, where Discovery's audience of reality shows, those entertainment programs, is typically not into HBO's blend of blockbuster movies and prestige TV shows. Likewise, the HBO audience who tends to be into stuff like House of the Dragon and and anything from the Wizarding World to DC to even more modestly budget prestige films. Almost typically not into stuff like the 90 Day Fiance or other TLC canon, which at one point that used to be a learning channel, but one of my common go-to names has been the lowest common denominator. And naturally, as the rebrand name also failed to who really pull away subscribers and viewership from competitors like Netflix, Disney Plus, and Prime, to name a few, who they also began talks of walking back the rebrand, which they did as of this year, committing a full-on D-brand, and which I believe was the right call to make. Heck, I mean, and naturally, I'm still into mainly the same. My viewership habits did not really change, both neither before or after this happened, with but mostly in the same in things was like What's Club Unlimited 2, Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, DC, hence by used to Creature Commands for that image, and even in more niche labels like Ghibli and A24 as well, with that last one often having mind bending but also thought provoking in ideas about where we are as a society, but I dare say I'm once again getting ahead of myself. So, earlier in the year, the worst kept secret that's in the business finally got out. That the higher ups in the company began the process as to who change ownership to a new company. Failing that, at decouple the Discovery assets from the WB assets. That's which, no matter what happens, is honestly the least surprising thing to me. Having lived through the AOL, whole Time Warner kerfuffle in 2000s, and which even lasted a similar amount of time, there's a lot of similarities to the points where, up to including the trying to combine and leverage the best points of both, but the result was the opposite happened, and no one on of one company was interested in what the other was doing, and vice versa. No matter how many times I saw the byline on one of their movies or their AOL keywords words on one of their I don't know their shows, be that on Cartoon Network, TNT, or elsewhere. Here, I mean, in fact, I was just legit surprised that people were still using their dial-up service before or that went dark, since a lot like the price and pace have some broadband across the board has gone down a lot since it first came out, and also the usage has gone up. But that's not important right now. What is important is to see what will happen with the company in the near future, because as early as next year, it's clear that it's not going to who be the people who were in Discovery running the show for much longer. Hmm. Currently, the people in charge of Warner Bros. Discovery are reviewing bids from at least three potential whole, whole new owners. There's in no particular order. Netflix, Comcast, and Skydance will put in bids for the company. He, all of whom will have very different visions for their vast catalog of IP. He, with Casey Bloys already committing to having annual installments for for the likes of DC. He he also has some Fire adaptations and their upcoming Wizard World Event series. Even with the controversies that the author has engaged in, I'm willing to admit that it still has a sizable fan base, and they're going to keep milking that hippogriff as long as they can, as people often do when they have stuff that valuable in their house. All the same, if I had to personally state right now, I'm more interested in what they'll be doing with DC, Dune, and now going all in on potential video game adaptations. On top of Mortal Kombat 2 and a sequel to Minecraft, if they're also going to still be pursuing their off delayed follow up to Detective Pikachu with their follow up to Great Detective Pikachu currently having in Conskull Island's Jordan Voight Roberts attached to it, which intrigues me as someone who really enjoyed that film and his other works. And as I stated before, there are a lot of parallels with the AOL Time Warner situation in the 2000s, and it's where two very different companies came together to try and leverage the assets and basis of both, but the complete opposite happened instead, where fans of Warner's movies and shows, hello, were not really into AOL's keywords being crowbarred into dang near everything they had their hands on, whereas AOL subscribers didn't really have the same enthusiasm for Warner's movies or shows either. I especially can say, that as someone who was mainly using Netscape at the time. For those unaware or just weren't born yet, they were basically the people who went on to found Mozilla, and even used all the same programmers. And naturally, he a lot of the same lessons can be applied here. That if a company is to join forces with another, or they have to have a solid plan in place. They can't just mash a bunch of intellectual properties together when they're diving into the pose and expect everything to work out, because more often than not, it doesn't work that way. Hey, I I'm fairly. I know that all three people putting in bids for the company face challenges of their own, and it's also highly possible that none of the potential bids end up being attractive if to David and Gunnar, and they instead just begin the process of decoupling WB from Discovery, so it will be once again both WB and Discovery as it was in years past. I mean, I can't say I'm ever going to be terribly invested in the other way of 90 Day Fiance, but I gotta say, after even a month coming off a movie I liked, Mickey 17, underperforming despite being relatively well received, even if some people considered it to be a bit of a touchy subject, they had quite an impressive streak of 8 consecutive #1 openings, and with Minecraft, Sinners, Final Destination Bloodlines, with F1, albeit alongside Apple, Superman, Weapons, The Conjuring Last Rites, and One Battle After Another, all varied in genre, director, and tone, all of which have garnered some degree of positive reception and brand success. So perhaps there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and not just the one that the coyote crashes face first into. Heck, while I'm on the subject, due to Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie actually making back its relatively modest as acquisition costs theatrically, the same mini major catch-up entertainment also bought the long dormant Coyote Pacific Acme and planned to get a full theatrical release in 2026. It's one of several things I've marked on my entertainment calendar, especially in regards to animated works. I mean, I was highly in favor of that one on the grounds that the Looney Tunes as a whole have multi-generational appeal. The a human lead, John Cena, is one of the few people left in this business and still moving the name alone, and those who have gotten a chance to see it, albeit in a relatively incomplete form, have drawn favorable comparisons to both Who Framed Roger Rabbit, an all-time classic, and Warner's own Barbie in terms of satire, humor, and heart. And I'm really eager to see that. Who knows? Maybe we'll even see Batgirl have a similar rescue, who with I thinking a more modest neon more detective story would have had a better chance than and having ethically dubious CGI and even more ethically dubious lead star with a myriad of legal and health problems at the center. And I also have been seeing bits and pieces of that Scoob special leak out online. It seemed alright. I mean, right, so. And I'm still keeping an eye on other projects that are coming down the pipe, such as Go-Go Mystery Machine, and also respect as I could tell Michael Cusack are wanting to end Smiling Friends on their own terms. Someone who's really enjoying that show lately. So that'll be all for now. And whatever happens to Warner Bros. Next, I will definitely see you again in the near future with the revival of HBO Max and Relax series. But first, I have some more unfinished business with another company who's also in a bit of a state of disarray. That's all for now. Take care, everyone.